What?
Sure do.
Everyone. Sally's not getting to tonight. Jordan and Tyler are online. So we have everyone who will be here tonight.
Great. Let's go ahead and have those that would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance do that.
Also, the flag of the United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we're streaming on YouTube and recording. Wonderful. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a regular meeting of the Silverton Board of Trustees. Today is March 25th. The time is 7:01 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Edwards. Trustee Cranker.
Here.
Trustee Harper.
Here.
Trustee Bierma.
Here.
Trustee George.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney and Mayor Frim.
Here. All right, thank you very much. So we have 5 people here, which is a quorum. We can have the meeting. We'll start by asking, do we have any staff or board revisions to the agenda?
I would like to request to add a letter of support for the congressional spending request for the library renovation to the consent agenda, item 5J. I emailed the letter of support to you all this morning.
Wonderful. Do we have any other revisions to the agenda from the board? Okay, so we'll now move to public comment. We'll start with in-person comment and then move to Zoom comments. If you're on Zoom, please go ahead and click the raise hand button so we can get you in the queue. Please announce yourself and then we'll give you a 3-minute timer.
Do you want to clarify too, if you have public comment on the public hearing items?
Yes, that's a great
Clarification.
We do have 4 public hearings tonight. And so if your comment specifically relates to one of those public hearings, it's best for you to public comment in that public hearing. So it goes into that record. But any general public comments or something not related to a public hearing would be perfectly appropriate now.
So I did prepare 2 public comments this evening, and I would like to contribute both of those. One of them is pertaining to one of those agenda items that you mentioned, but I'll go ahead with my first comment if that's okay.
For sure.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Abigail Armistead. Before I begin, it is important to clarify that I am currently off duty and not acting in any official capacity by speaking here tonight. Additionally, the views and opinions that I intend to express are strictly my own, and in no way do they reflect the position or beliefs of the San Juan County Sheriff's Office. With that out of the way, I came here tonight to comment on the building permit application for Lot 8, Block 36, in the 1000 block of Green Street, which just so happens to be located directly next to where I live. The proposed structure is a mixed-use commercial retail space and hotel, evidently to be built to the maximum allowable height of 40 feet tall, thereby making it one of, if not the tallest building on Green Street. I recently watched the Historic Review Committee meeting that took place earlier this month, at which time I became aware of a comment submitted by my neighbor, who expressed strong opposition to the project, stating, "I would prefer all the vacant land to be used for single-family residences, since there is such a shortage of available housing in Silverton. I am opposed to a mixed-use building being constructed." I was on the fence about whether or not to share my personal opinion on the matter, but upon becoming aware of the comments submitted by my neighbors, I felt compelled to support them by also stepping forward and sharing my very similar position, which is, above all else, that there is an extremely limited amount of land here upon which new construction can be built. We are running out of space to meet our housing needs. allowing the construction of another hotel or retail space in spite of all the vacant storefronts already lining both sides of Green Street is to willfully and knowingly disregard the values of our community and the pressing and urgent need for affordable, attainable, and equitable housing. To borrow a line from the letter of concern submitted by my husband, there has been near endless discussion about how we can best provide housing for those of us that call this town home. It's true, and every single person here tonight knows that it is. Simply put, Silverton has no need for more hotels. Silverton has an immense need for additional housing. And Silverton has an extremely limited amount of space. Thank you.
Do we have any other in-person comments?
Hi, folks. I'm Colin Peterman. I live at 662 Reese Street, and this kind of falls under the category of while I'm here. I just wondering if there's ever been a plan or anybody's ever mentioned the Reese Street Canyon that lives in front of my house, and if maybe something could be done about that on a more consistent basis. That's about it. Thanks, guys.
Any other in-person public comment? Do you see a hand raised on Zoom?
Hey, everybody, it's Melody. Can you hear me?
We can.
Very good. I want to say that I'm really for the mixed-use building in I think it's the 1000 block of Green. It's going to be really beautiful. One of the things we have always spoken about in the many years I've lived here in Silverton is whether we have enough beds to fill a train. Over the many years, the train would say, if Silverton ever got enough beds, we'd start a train in Silverton that could go down and come back. I don't know how they'd work that out, but that is something we need to be thinking about, as well as people from Silverton Mountain having enough beds to stay. If our tourism is going to grow, we certainly have to have rentable rooms. I think the building's beautiful and I hope it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you. But seeing no other public comment at this time, we'll close this public comment period. We will have many other public comment periods during this meeting. So now we'll move on to our first substantive agenda item, which is new business item 4A. This is a public hearing, first reading of ordinance 2024-04, an ordinance of the town of Silverton for an amendment to the official zoning map, rezoning properties as described in Exhibit A from BA Business Automotive District to R2 multiple family residential district. As a public hearing, the way this will work is we will receive kind of an overview from staff. Then the applicant will have an opportunity to also present. Then there will be a public comment period. Public comment period will close, and then we'll have trustee deliberation and decision. So now I hand it over to staff.
Great. And Sheila will be leading this.
I will. Hello,
Thanks.
everyone. How are you doing? So tonight we have a rezoning of 4 lots from BA Business Automotive to R2 Multifamily Residential. The project name is 25-04 zoning. It's a Rathmel rezoning. It's 4 lots. It's a long legal description, so I won't read it. Just know that it's a fractional part of Block H. The general location is north of 5th Street along the town boundary. The applicants are Karen Rathmel, Joanne Vada, William Sandell, Susan Sandell Takahashi, and Michael Sandell. The applicant is Karen Rathmel, and again, the zoning is BA Business Automotive at this time. The property is in the Slope Hazard Overlay District. All required documents and materials were submitted by February 5th, and all fees have been paid. For our public notice, it was posted on the town website February 8th and in the Silverton Standard and Minor on the same date. Proposed improvements, right now it's no improvements, it's just a rezoning from BA to R2. Again, no improvements at this time, just getting the property set up to be in a more realistic zone district, which I will explain later. When development is proposed on the lots, a use subject to review application will be required since the lots are located within the slope hazard overlay district. That is based on the current code. That could change with the new one, but if it were to develop under the current code right now, that would be required. Dimensional requirements. So this property does not meet all the dimensional requirements of the current BA zone district. They are more closely aligned with those of the R2 zone district, which is adjacent to it. When we look at non-conforming tracts within the town, it allows for improvements on non-conforming tracts that existed prior to August 28th, 1972, if they don't meet the lot area, lot width requirements of the zoning district, so long as all the others are met. The setbacks of the current BA zone district would significantly reduce the building envelope for the lots and likely require a variance, which would result in lots losing their non-conforming status for all of the other standards within them. By rezoning to the R2 zone district, the number of dimensional variants that would be required are likely reduced and possibly eliminated depending on the ultimate design and if any of the lots are combined. And although the properties as currently configured do not meet all the dimensional requirements of the R2 zone district, the Silverton Municipal Code doesn't have a standard that requires the parcels to be in compliance in order to be rezoned to the new district. We looked at the Compass Master Plan, and this location is called for housing infill specifically for single family and duplexes. So the rezoning is in conformance with the future land use plan within the Compass Master Plan. For public comments, we received no comments as of the date of this presentation. The Planning Commission reviewed it at their February 19th, 2024 meeting, and they recommended unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning of the 4 parcels from BA to R2. Staff also finds that the applicant has submitted all the required materials and therefore recommends approval of the 4 parcels described in the long, lengthy legal that I didn't want to read for you guys, from BA to multifamily R2 as presented. And here are some sample motions for you. These motions do include the lengthy legal description for you should you choose to read them. And I am available for questions if you have any at this time.
Thank you very much. And do we have a representative of the applicant?
Yes, we have Karen on, if you would promote her.
Here.
Hi.
Okay, I don't know if I can get my face on there, but you can hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, super. Is there anything you'd like to know or?
Well, so at this point, if there's anything you'd like to add to the staff report or any additional context, that would be the most helpful. If you're happy with what's been presented, then following the public comment, the board may have some questions for you. But this is your time to kind of supplement what's been provided already.
Okay. Well, what was said was totally fine. I'm in agreement with that. And these are just lots that have been in the Rathmel and Voda families for decades. They've just been kind of inherited as, you know, people have passed on. And so I've gotten together with Joanne Voda and her kiddos, and we're just relinquishing them. We have a buyer who's interested, a family, and it sounds like they're going to do something with them. Ultimately, they just love Silverton. And since Joanne and I aren't going to do anything with them, we've just put them all together to sell as a unit, and having them rezoned will be very helpful to that.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it. If anybody has questions, I'll do my best.
Okay, Karen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You got it. So we'll now open this hearing for public comment. Do we have any public comment in person or on Zoom? If you're on Zoom, please click the raise hand button. And I should have said this before, but if you're on YouTube, we don't have any way to interact with you. So if you would like to make a comment and you're watching on YouTube, please jump over to the Zoom. Anyone here? Nope. And I do not see any public comment on Zoom. So we'll close the public comment period and go to trustee discussion.
You go back. She should, you know.
This to me is a no-brainer.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to kick it off. I think the BA district is going away in the code rewrite most likely. It's not helpful. It makes no sense. And R2 is very helpful. It makes a lot of sense. So I'm very much in support.
Yep.
Yep, same here.
Jordan, anything from you?
No, I'm okay with it.
Great. Well, that was quick. Would someone like to make a motion? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the rezoning of the 4 parcels known as fractional block H, north 130 feet, middle 85 feet, southerly 85 feet, vacated portion of 6th Street lying between fractional blocks G and H, and also bounded by the northwest boundary of Keystone Street and the northwest boundary of the town of Silverton from business automotive BA to multifamily residential R2 as presented, finding the rezoning would be in conformance with section 16-1-40 of the Silverton Municipal Code.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kränker,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yep.
trustee Birma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Well, Karen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Your application was just approved. All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is new business 4B, public hearing 24-01 OVR 661 Green, a request by Matt and Jordan Razuk for exterior building alterations on an existing structure, commercial use within the Architectural Review Overlay District, known as the AROD, located at 661 Green. We will follow the same procedure for each of these public hearings.
Sorry, I had to unmute.
Yeah.
All right, this is for exterior renovations within the AROD for 661 Altus. It's also known as the Altus Lodge. Project name 2401 OVR 661 Green, Altus Lodge, formerly Canyon View Motel. General location is north of 6th between Green and Reese. The applicant is Safe Haven Colorado LLC, also Matt Razuk. The zoning is business pedestrian, and the property is in the AROD, the Architectural Review Overlay District. All required documents and materials were submitted on December 1st, 2023, and all fees have been paid. On February 29th, the property was posted on the town website, published in the Silverton Standard and Minor, and notifications mailed to the adjacent landowners. Proposed improvements include replacement of existing windows, paint the exterior doors a dark green to match the existing metal roof, install rust-colored corrugated metal fencing, a cedar hot tub, a gas fire pit, and then the Canyon View Motel rebranded as the Altus Lodge, new carved wood signage, which incorporates the logo. So some of those images are provided here for you. The code references. So although this isn't part of the application review tonight, we also look at whether or not it meets the dimensional requirements so that if the application wants to move forward, they know that they can do that even if the architectural review is approved. So we looked at the proposed structure. The use conforms with the zoning requirements of the Silverton Municipal Code and the recommendations of the Compass Master Plan. And again, the board is only considering conformance with the AROD regulations tonight. For the AROD, applicability and permitting, any changes to the facade, exterior building alterations on existing structures as viewed from the Heritage Tourism Corridor. So that is why you're looking at it. Additional standards, you may add site-specific conditions of approval, and those that would apply tonight, if you wanted to consider them, would be the fencing and the signage. As part of our review and that done by the Historic Review Committee, we looked at the AROD checklist and the Silverton Green Street new commercial buildings checklist. Staff reviewed what the applicant submitted and found that it was in compliance. I just want to note that renovations and the builder's handbook within the AROD will no longer apply on March 27th, but the applicant does comply with those tonight, and that is what is before you. So back to the site-specific considerations. This is something that you can impose should you want to per the code. Section 164800 804C allows the addition of site-specific conditions. The applicant did not specifically address any arguments for the signage or for the fence, but they are under your purview should you want to add any. The intent of the site-specific standards is to ensure the design does not conflict with the town's historic landmark designation. The Historic Review Committee and staff did not make any recommendations on these two elements for site-specific conditions. No written public comments have been received at the time of this. During the March 12th meeting, a property owner who lives behind the hotel had concerns with public access through the alley behind the hotel in regard to the new fencing, and also concerns with noise and lighting. The Historic Review Committee voted unanimously to recommend approval of the application for exterior renovations. And again, no site-specific conditions were added for the fencing or the signage. Similarly, staff recommends that the applicant finds the application has submitted all the required materials within the time frame and recommends approval of the application for exterior renovations within the Architectural Review Overlay District located at Block 69, lots 19 to 24. However, this is a decision for the board to make based on any hearing or any additional testimony here tonight. So here are your sample motions should you use to choose them, and we're available for questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. And it looks like we have some representatives for the applicant.
Yeah, you can promote Jordan and Matt Razuk.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
We can.
Hey, this is Jordan Razuk here. Thanks for having us tonight. I don't have too much to add. I think Sheila did a really good job going through the exterior renovations. I guess we'll answer any questions that come up, and I'll add one thing. I think everything we're doing here is going to make this place look really great. We're really excited to be a part of the community and excited to open this place up this summer. So really don't have too much to add. I'll just kind of pass it back to you guys and be here for questions if anything comes up.
Thank you, Jordan. We'll now open up public comment. Do we have any in-person public comment? And similar to before, please introduce yourself and we'll keep a 3-minute timer.
Okay, my name is Scotty Peterman. My husband is here as well, Colin Peterman. We live at 662 Reese Street, which is directly behind where they want to put the courtyard and fencing. We don't have any objections to the design. We think it's going to look beautiful and it's going to be an improvement to the property. Our only concerns are one with the fencing. We're just curious about if the town has looked at the property lines, because it looks like they're going to put the fence on the property line. I want to make sure there's enough room in the alley, because with them putting up the fence, the alley doesn't go all the way through to the other street. So it's now going to be a dead end alley. People have just been using the pass through the hotel to get through the alley. So I'm concerned about snow removal, propane, emergency services. Now that it's a dead end, I just want to make sure that those services can get to our alley. My only other concern is that they're going to have a hot tub and fire pit. And I assume that people are going to come home after a day of activities and want to have some drinks and hang out, which is fine. But I just want to make sure that there's going to be a cutoff time so that they're not there till midnight. And we're just wondering if lights will be turned off, because our master bedroom faces that hotel. And I'm just afraid there's going to be bright lights all night long. And I don't think I have anything else to say. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you.
Do we have any other in-person public comment? Would anyone on Zoom like to make public comment? Please click the raise hand button. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and move on to trustee discussion. I guess I would like to ask staff what you think about the public comment we just received about lights and noise and alley, well, primarily alley access, but also anything that you have to say about lights and noise.
We didn't. Oh, go ahead. Do you want me to go? Sorry. We didn't really get a site plan, but what we could do is add a condition of approval that has the local fire and or police and even public works look at the placement of the fence just to make sure that it fits. So we could add that as a condition that the placement can't interfere with that.
And we also sent the application to referral agencies, which included the fire department. And so they had an opportunity to look at it and had no concerns. But again, we could absolutely kind of bring that back if that's a concern.
And then Jordan, did you want to respond as well?
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
We can now.
Perfect. Yep. Those are definitely some valid concerns. I guess let me talk about the light and the noise first. We do plan on having a curfew. We don't want to, be up into the wee hours of the morning upsetting our neighbors. That is definitely something we thought about. And I think part of why we want to do the fence is to add a level of privacy. So, our neighbors aren't looking in, our guests aren't looking into our neighbors' yards. As far as the placement of the fence, we definitely have thought about that and taken into consideration. I think mostly it's just, like we said, to kind of have a little bit of privacy from the road and then the people behind us. I think the way we would have it set up, it wouldn't necessarily block that alley. And we're more than happy to consult with anybody you guys think we should consult with on the placement when we're actually putting it in. But definitely two things we're concerned about. We don't want to be a problem for anybody around us. So if there's anything else around that, I'm happy to talk about it. But I think that kind of sums up our stance on it.
Thank you. And then one other quick question I had is it doesn't look like the alley's developed on that block, at least not the whole way through. Is that like, how does that work? Like at what point, what triggers the completion of the alley and who's responsible for it?
I'll let John answer that question unless you want me to take that one.
I'm glad to answer that. That particular alley goes off of a steep drop there. And because the lower part of that block has not been developed, no one has been required to develop that alley. With respect to the width of the alley, it would be nice if they were all 2 or 3 feet wider. But based on this drawing, I think we will still have several alleys in town that are more hazardous to plow.
So John, to clarify then, with what you've seen thus far with this application, plowing the alley or maintaining that is not a concern to you?
No.
Thanks.
Do we have, sorry, keep going. Do we have any specific ordinances about lighting and like the direction it can point so that we're not, like, is there any control the town has to say, like, you can't have exterior lighting that's like pointing right at a neighbor's house or anything like that?
I mean, it's considered a nuisance, but would have to be evaluated by the code officer. And that is something that we are evaluating right now in our code rewrite as far as lighting goes. But right now it's in the nuisance section of our code.
It sounds like we don't have a whole lot of, we can say like to condition and approval based on lighting, but it sounds like Jordan's aware of the Peterman's concerns and hopefully doesn't point lights right at their bedroom window.
And then the same goes for the noise. We do have a noise ordinance as well.
Right, the noise ordinance kicks in at 10. Yeah. Jordan or Tyler?
I was just going to add really quick. I think most of the lighting was going to be in the front of the building anyway. And knowing the Peterman's concerns, again, something we will take into consideration. So we're not shining any lights into their backyard or living room or anything like that. Definitely a fair concern.
Thank you.
Hopefully in general, if you have mood lighting, your fireplace and a hot tub, it's not going to be like floodlights.
Exactly.
Tyler, comments, questions?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Jordan Bierma, comments, questions?
No, none for me.
Anything else from you guys?
No, I'm good.
I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it's a thorough applicant. It meets the requirements. Appreciate the public comment and the applicant's desire to attend to that. I think, again, we have in our code some options to deal with the noise and lighting as nuisance if it comes to that. So, yeah.
And you did say that the fire department reviewed and didn't have comment.
Yes.
And John just confirmed that he didn't have comment. So if there's no other comments and questions, would someone like to make a motion? I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the A-Rod application for exterior renovations within the Architectural Review Overlay District located on block 69, lots 19 through 24, 661 Green as presented, finding the A-Rod application is in conformance with section 16-4-6 of the Silverton Municipal Code.
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kränker,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Bierma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Well, Jordan, thank you very much for working through the application process, and we wish you the best of luck. Your application was just approved. All right, we'll move on to new business item 4C, public hearing 24-06 OVR block 36 lot 8, a request by Benjamin Blue for the new construction of a structure multi-use within the Architectural Review Overlay District located at block 36 lot 8 TBD Green Street. And this will follow the same procedure as the other public hearings. So I hand it over to staff.
Thank you. So this is case number 24-06 OVR block 36 lot 8. It's on north of 10th between Green and Blair. The owner is SGH LLC, Benjamin Blue, same as the applicant. The zoning district is business pedestrian, and it's in the Architectural Review Overlay District. All required documents and materials were submitted on February 1st, 2023, and all fees have been paid. On February 29th, it was posted on the town website, published in the Silverton Standard and Minor, and mailed to adjacent landowners on February 29th as well. This gives you a sample of the proposed improvements. It's a new commercial structure, a proposed hotel motel with ground floor retail. We reference the zoning for the business pedestrian. And again, so as though it's not part of this application review, but we also look at the proposed structure to make sure it will meet all the requirements of the base zone district BP. The proposed structure and the use conform with the zoning requirements of the Silverton Municipal Code and the recommendations of the Compass Master Plan. And as stated earlier, the board is only considering conformance with the A-Rod regulations at this time. For the A-Rod, again, this is new construction as viewed from the Heritage Tourism Corridor. So that's why you have it before you today. One of the site-specific conditions that you can add is windowless walls. As noted here, it's one of the considerations that you can add conditions for. This was reviewed under the A-Rod checklist and the Builder's Handbook, Silverton Green Street, new commercial buildings. The applicant submitted both checklists and we reviewed those for compliance. Again, noted as in the last one, the Builder's Handbook will be removed from the A-Rod March 27th with the adoption of the ordinance. Site-specific considerations, the one that applies to this one is windowless walls. The code allows the board to add those conditions. The applicant argues in the application that infill development on both sides of this lot will likely happen in the future, and a 0-foot side setback renders windows along these walls not ideal. So if you did have something building up to it, the windows would basically be looking at nothing but another wall. The Historic Review Committee and staff did not recommend any site-specific conditions regarding the windowless walls. Public comment, we received 1 in favor and 4 responses in opposition. 2 of those letters were included in your packet and 2 new ones were emailed, one on March 22nd and March 25th. Those in opposition, in summary, stated a preference for residential housing to address the housing needs in town. There was also concerns with the height of the structure, snow shed storage, and the use of the building itself. The property owner who submitted in favor supported a continuation of the downtown business, was opposed to residential development on the lot. Again, the thing that we need to remember tonight is the land use is not up for consideration by the board. Only the architectural elements that fall under the architectural review overlay district. The proposed use as a hotel motel is a permitted use in that zone district, and it's not a use subject to review. The height is also within the dimensional requirements of the underlying zone district. So the Historic Review Committee at its March 12th meeting voted unanimously to recommend approval of the AROD application for a new hotel motel building with ground floor retail located at Block 36, Lot 8 as presented, finding that the AROD application was in conformance with 1646 of the Silverton Code. Staff also finds the applicant submitted all the materials and recommends approval of the AROD application. These are sample motions should you choose to move forward with this, and I am available for questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. And we do have the applicant here in person.
Good evening. I'll state my name for the record. My name is Ben Blue, representative of SHG LLC. Mr. Mayor, esteemed Board of Trustees, town staff, public present here this evening. In light of the recent Historic Review Committee's vote recommending approval of the subject application for Lot 8, Block 36 here in Silverton, I stand before you to speak for the project. Before deciding what to build for the site, my team and I carefully studied Silverton codes, master plan, and did a deep dive into the history, heritage, and tourism of Silverton, as well as a study of regional historic districts. After thoroughly reading the Compass Master Plan, our determination was that the highest and best use for the subject property would be an example of infill development, and that both strategically aligns with community objectives and drives economic outcomes here on Green Street, the town's main commercial corridor. Nearby sites are densifying. Rainbow Garage had work done and now has a for lease sign out. The multi-million-dollar bank building renovation was approved and will be less than a block away from the subject property. And Helly Adventures acquired 1069 Green on the corner right across from this application's subject property. And their HQ, from what I've read in the press, will have significant investment done for renovations into that property. All this has happened in the time since the subject property of this application was acquired. A bit of background, my wife Sophie and I encountered Silverton a couple years ago. Understandably, we fell in love with the beauty of this place and its community. We made immediate efforts to move here and call Silverton our permanent home. We felt warmly welcomed by the community and we're now seeking to contribute positively in accordance to the town's consensus master plan direction, which we feel very much aligned with. Sophie loves her town of Silverton jobs, both at the school and at the library. And I've been working closely with the Silverton builder and other local trades here in Silverton to deeply renovate and breathe new life into a 1905 built house on Snowden Street, which once complete will be the home where we plan to start a family. I have a strong intent to contribute in the long term to Silverton's story by bringing my Swiss education in hospitality management and my background in operations and food and beverage to bear for this project. As far as for the project itself, in addition to what you have in the packet in front of you, I have assembled a talented and knowledgeable team, a small bunch of dedicated and hardworking people, including Colorado locals, expending their time, thoughts, and energy on how to contribute positively to Silverton's built environment. For instance, The team includes 3 architects from 3 different perspectives. One architect is licensed locally, bringing a strong engineering background with deep knowledge of local and national requirements and the math and science for creating an efficient building. Another from Chile specializes in sustainable building materials and practices in high altitude environments and has a government contract there working on sustainability-minded infrastructure projects for national parks to preserve them and make them more accessible. We also have on board a renowned Spanish interior architect who is really excited to contribute ideas for the building's interiors. By integrating local materials and drawing inspiration from a sense of place gathered during site visits, they will bring the outside in, respecting and paying homage to the history of our town, while venturing to preserve into the future the memory of Silverton in the minds of people who interact with our property. The design intent is to create meaningful and comfortable spaces for daily users and overnight occupants, and our doors will remain open as an amenity for the local population. I am in talks with, and it is my goal to recruit a local builder to execute the vision for this building, and in doing so, bolster local employment. Standing up a project like this is a challenge due to site constraints and financial considerations. I believe that building a thoughtful building is a worthwhile pursuit, though, the result of which represents a significant investment into our community. I, for one, think it's great that tax revenues generated through this project's retail and lodging sales could, for example, support community priorities like local infrastructure upgrades and town's efforts to create permanent availability of obtainable housing. My team's aim for the project is to be a beacon for building sustainably with an architecture that can respect history and spur the economy through urban renewal. A draw for our customers will be the incorporation of renewable mass timber, building elements, and principles of passive design. We aim for the building to be certified LEED, which is an acronym for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, which to my knowledge, if achieved, would be the first building certified to that higher standard in our community. Let me take some time to address the comments against the project. Reading from the staff report, in general, the parties would prefer to see single-family development and are opposed to the height of the proposed commercial structure. I do empathize with the sentiment and acknowledge the need for more residential use structures in Silverton, a problem I shall like to work in collaboration with locals and town staff on. It is important to note, though, that the current code does not permit new construction of pure residential use structure on a single 25 by 100 lot in BP. New construction on a single lot in this district is allowed, but only for builds with commercial principal use, and single family or multifamily projects require twice the minimum lot area. The primary basis for our understanding that the intent for BP zoning district is that of commercial use can be found in the opening of Town Code Section 16350A, which states BP district, quote, is established for the purpose of providing an area for a wide range of retail use. And it goes on listing different commercial uses, which are, quote, readily accessible to a person on foot. We understand additionally that the subject application was bound to follow the guidelines of the Builder's Handbook in order to benefit from an unconditional Historic Review Committee recommendation for approval. The following guidelines from the handbook helped inform our design direction. In the handbook, page 14, on Green Street, the quote, buildings built of masonry or wood were typically built to fill a 25 by 100 foot lot, end quote. And further on page 18, reference applications like ours for Green Street, quote, the building should fill the 25 foot lot dimensions of the lot, end quote. So in addition to smaller lot requirements, commercial buildings, according to the handbook, should have 0 foot front and side setbacks. In addition, on page 18, the handbook notes that new buildings should, quote, complement the long, narrow, rectangular form end quote, of nearby historic Green Street commercial buildings. And that's exactly what we've proposed. What I'm pointing to is that in order to adhere for the prescribed requirement standards in the handbook to which our application was held in terms of form and use, the process of designing a building permitted by right would yield a building such as the one that has been proposed. I believe that there has been a vote to uncouple the handbook standards from AROD, but as of now, that hasn't been finalized to my awareness. Further, speaking to the height of the application structure, it may be worth highlighting to that end that we are not requesting any variance from what's allowed by right. Our proposal conforms to the requirements for maximum height of buildings on lots in this block and district. Our understanding of height was informed by the town's municipal code. Also, the town code and zoning section 16 specifically caps residential use heights on green by prescribing lower height maximums for residential new construction at 30 feet, meaning less density of residential possible, and taller new structures on smaller lots are permitted by right for commercial principal use. The future proposed land use code rewrite, to my understanding, is indicative of Main Street continuing to be the optimal place in Silverton for infill density, a master plan goal for Silverton's commercial core. We think that shorter, low-density residential use structures are best suited for districts in town other than Maine. The structure we're proposing was carefully and thoughtfully designed such that it can be approved as presented by right. After verification by town staff, the application was evaluated by the Historic Committee and unanimously found to warrant recommendation of unconditional approval. Feedback I've personally received from community members at large has felt to me overwhelmingly supportive, and my team looks forward to bringing the project to life, contributing to and benefiting the town with tax revenue and the creation of more good long-term local employment in Silverton. Community benefits include access to goods and services of the future operations of the property, like additional dining options available for locals and visitors. The property will provide increased lodging capacity during community events and give guests an opportunity to consume from other local businesses, including adventure outfitters, neighborhood food, beverage, and places of entertainment, as well as shops and adjacent retail. Our aim is to align our actions with creating a more self-sufficient year-round and circular type economy here in Silverton. And I greatly appreciate your time and attention for listening to and considering this application. Your efforts in service to the community don't go unrecognized. And it's my hope that I've properly conveyed how the approval of this project will benefit in balance your constituents and the town. I'm hopeful that you'll vote in favor of approving the project as presented, finding the application in conformance with the Silverton Master Code. That concludes the extent of my comments at this time. Thank you.
Now open up for public comment. We'll start with in-person comment, then move to Zoom. If you're on Zoom, please go ahead and click the raise hand button. Would anyone in person like to make a public comment?
Say something. Just real quick, my name's Colin Peterman. Again, I live on Reese Street. I wasn't gonna say anything, but like, that was great. These are the things we talk about wanting for our town. More people, families, they're providing more housing by fixing a house and living in it. That's great. We want more businesses, more people. So I would just like to say, I think this is great and good luck, you guys.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any comment on Zoom and no one else in person is coming up. So we'll close public comment and move on to trustee discussion. I'll kick it off. I was at the Historic Review Committee meeting. We talked about this application and substance, and like we were told at the beginning, the use is not part of our approval. But personally, I think that the BP district needs to be reserved for commercial uses. I similarly sympathize with the negative comment we got about people whose houses are nearby and how that might impact them. But similar to the ED district, I feel like we have very small footprints for BP and ED, and those are essential for the success of our town. So I'm very much in support of the very first new construction, like ground up commercial construction that I'm aware of in Silverton in a very long time. So I think this is great, and I have no conditions that I'd like to apply to this application.
I think as we heard from staff and the applicant, it was a very thorough, thoughtful application. Thank you for that, Ben. Again, I think we did get some public comment, and I definitely sympathize, right? We talk a lot about housing, we talk about the need for housing, but as we heard in this, that's really not in the purview of what the town board is having to consider right now. This is zone business pedestrian. The applicant meets that zoning requirement. A motel hotel is a legal use for this lot. And really, as we heard, our current code doesn't permit a residential unit at 25 feet on that lot. I think, again, it's really exciting to see commercial spaces as well. We talk a lot on the chamber board about how we do have need for additional beds for our visitors, for additional places for people to get something to eat. So I think options that is going to increase that space is really important, both from a business side and just community side. So it's exciting to see someone who is coming here and trying to be local and invested in the community make this kind of improvement. Like, this is the thing we've been trying to say we wanted. So I'm wholeheartedly in support of this project. Even though we're not talking about rezoning or anything, I think it's exciting to see a new young family coming and wanting to put down roots and invest in the community. So I also think, regarding the historic review committee feedback and what's presented, I think the applicant has gone out of their way to meet the standards and to provide a design look that really marries old and new, right? Pays homage to our history, to our past, but presents something that's new, that's fresh, that's interesting. I understand how, because it's on a vacant lot now, it doesn't fit that infill of where you expect, 2 more houses to be there. But someone has to take the first leap. And so I think this provides a great space to invite someone else to enjoy that commercial space on Green Street. So I think this is really exciting.
Jim, Tyler, Jordan?
Yes, I'll go next. We're voting on a specific A-Rod application. The Historic Review Committee did approve this unanimously from what I was told. Aesthetically, it's nice, it's big. Yeah, I approve this, absolutely.
Tyler or Jordan?
Yeah, given what we're actually approving this evening, again, it's not up for debate what the use is for. For the A-Rod and historic review, absolutely.
Thank you. Jordan?
Yeah, I would just kind of reiterate that. Based on the parameters we're deciding, I have nothing else to add.
All right, thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to recommend approval of the A-Rod application for a new hotel motel building with ground floor retail located at block 36, lot 8 of presented, finding the A-Rod application is in conformance with section 16-4-6 of the Silverton Municipal Code?
So moved.
Second.
It's on a roll today. Here we
Thank
go,
you.
Joe.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Cranker,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Bierma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you, guys. Yep. We'll now move on to new business 4D, public hearing 24-07 OVR 843 Green, a request by Jim Weller for demolition of an existing residential structure over 50 years old and over 1,000 square feet in floor area within the architectural review overlay district located at 1843 Green. Following the same process as the last few.
Hello again, it's me. So this time, instead of new construction, we're going to tear something down. So this is the demolition of an existing single-family structure. Case number 2407 OVR 843 Green Street, located on the north of 8th between Green and Reese. Owners are James Birch and Tracy Birch. The applicant is Jim Weller and David Shapiro. The zoning district is business pedestrian and it's located within the architectural review overlay district. All required documents were submitted February 13th and all fees have been paid. As with the others, on February 29th, it was posted on the town website, published in the Silverton Standard and Minor, and mailed to adjacent landowners. No public comments have been received at the time this presentation was created. The request is the demolition of an existing single-family structure built more than 50 years ago and greater than 1,000 square feet. Code reference that brings this to you, 164800, development in the AROD, additional design standards. It says, you shall not demolish anything 1,000 square feet or 50 years older unless you have, it's been demonstrated to the Historic Review Committee that repair of the building is not feasible. Future development of this lot will come back before the Historic Review Committee and the board, but right now we're just looking at the demolition. So when it came to feasible, we asked, what does feasibility mean? We leaned on your town attorney and we got the following guidance. The board should consider the following factors in a feasibility analysis. The value of the building to the overlay district. Is it of such character as to significantly contribute to the character and nature of the district, or is it just an old building? The cost of the remodel versus the cost of demolition and rebuild. Just because a remodel might be more than the demolition rebuild, cost may not in and of itself allow for the demolition permit. The proposed rebuild itself and how it would contribute or detract from the historic nature and character of the area and the adjacent buildings. So this is what we would move forward with. Should they get the demolition, we'll look for that next step. And is there some unfair, inequitable, financial, or other hardship to the owner in denying the demolition rebuild permit? Here are some photos of the structure that were provided by the applicant, some the historic and then some of the work inside and outside now. We did send it out for referral agency comments. The comments we got back were from the Silverton building official without knowing about the specific historic considerations for restoring the building and its design. Recommend a tear down and rebuild to current code standards that meets the AROD's requirements. We also sent it to the San Juan Historical Society. While I agree that this house possibly needs too much work to bring it up to current standards, there are great reservations about giving a permit to tear it down until the agreed and approved plans have been seen. Would not want the possible trash pile to sit there for too long while the plans are being made for a new structure. Also, would this new house closely conform to the Silverton standards for architectural treatments? We did ask the building official to give us guidance on the trash pile comment or concern from the Historical Society. Demo materials must stay on the property or within a container. The container must be removed within 90 days of the demo permit. Demo fencing around the property will likely be required on Green Street, and this specific property will be required to be inspected for asbestos before the issuance of a demo permit. The Historic Review Committee at its March 12th meeting voted unanimously to recommend approval of the demolition to the existing building. Staff also finds that the requirements were submitted and also recommends approval of the demolition. And here are sample motions should you choose to move forward with this application. And again, I'm here for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
We do not.
Okay, I will then open it up for, there is.
Never mind.
So for public comment, we'll hear from potentially the applicant.
Hello, this is Corey.
Hi, Corey. Are you connected with the applicant?
Yes. David is unfortunately unavailable right now for some surgery.
Okay, so this is your time to add any supplemental information or present anything that you would like in addition to what staff has just presented.
No additional comment.
Okay, well, thank you. If we have further comments, we'll ping you. So now we'll open up public comment. Do we have any in-person public comment? Do we have any Zoom public comment? Please click the raise hand button if you'd like to say something. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. I guess I'll kick it off again at the Historic Review Committee meeting. Jim Weller did provide a substantive response to some of the feedback received, particularly the feedback from the Historic Society that was concerned about not knowing what was going up or there being a trash pile. And he said the tear down of the house and the removal of all debris would be extremely quick, and that the site would essentially just be flat. And we were reminded during that meeting that our purview is limited to the application, which is the tear down, and nothing has been presented for what will be there. So we aren't able to say whether or not we like the future proposal. We can just say, do we think it's feasible? So the Historic Review Committee meeting discussed, like, is this building of historic value? Is it feasible to restore it? Or is the application to tear it down reasonable? And Jim made a very compelling case that this is not a building either worth restoring or feasible to restore. And I thought that the town attorney's memo about feasibility was super helpful in guiding that discussion. So I'm in support of approving this. I don't know if there's anything else the Historic Review Committee meeting that'd be helpful to.
No, I think you got it.
Oh.
I think too, just a reminder to anybody, but responding to the Historic Society comments, that anything that would come before us would have to abide by the AROD guidelines and would go before the town board. So that concern is alleviated, I think. And, just kind of a procedural thing, like as an applicant, if you didn't yet have permission to take something down, you probably wouldn't go through the expense of drafting architectural plans to propose something. So that's kind of a sequential thing for why you wouldn't see one before the other necessarily either. I love old homes. My last two houses are 100 and 150 years old. This house I live in now feels new, even though it's from the 60s. But I think the description from the attorney was really helpful. And having walked by this house, seeing the pictures, seeing the description, this feels like a reasonable application for tearing it down, from my perspective.
That's great. Yeah, I approve it.
Jordan or Tyler? See a thumbs up from Tyler.
No additional comments on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got no other comments to add. I think I'm all right with it.
Thank you. So would someone like to make a motion to recommend approval of the demolition of an existing building over 1,000 square feet in floor area and over 50 years old within the Architectural Review Overlay District located at Block 53, lots 19 to 21, 843 Green Street, as presented, finding the AROD application is in conformance with section 16-4-800 of the SMC?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please. That was one breath.
Franker,
Yes.
It's gonna be 3.5 years to do that. Yes.
trustee Birma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on our agenda is new business 4E, streetlight options for subdivision development. I'm a principal in the project this relates to. If I can be a helpful resource, I'm happy to be available, but I don't have any kind of like financial interest in the outcome of this, regardless of what the board suggests. So I'm happy to leave. I'm happy to stay. You guys tell me. Or Clayton, do I need to leave or is this okay?
You said you had no personal interest, Mayor Furman. Is that what you said? There's no financial or personal interest in the project. You're sitting on the board.
Well, whatever selection the board makes here impacts the project exactly the same. So it doesn't, like, the outcome doesn't have a positive or negative financial impact, but I do have a personal interest in the project. But I wouldn't discuss as a board member.
The outcome isn't material to the analysis, unfortunately.
Okay, so then I recuse for all of those reasons that I just stated. I'll be back in a moment.
Okay, I'll jump right in here. So we're all aware of the development that's going on down at blocks 86, 87, and 88 on the south side of town. And the representative of the developer approached me about streetlight options. They would like to install some lights that are ornamental, which is a request that we really haven't had, that I haven't had in my time here. And what we're used to seeing is just the San Miguel power pole with the LED light on top. And I'm glad that they asked. And I think that it's worth considering this, even though I'm not, staff is not asking you to choose this light because you can't. There is no code on whether or not we can select a particular type of street light at this time. So it's an exercise as much as anything. But we also brought this before the Historic Review Committee, and they did not have a preference on a light, but they did request that the lumens were a lower Kelvin, or sorry, not the lumens, but the color of the lighting was a lower Kelvin number, which would create a more of a warm light rather than a bright white LED type light that you're used to seeing associated with a white LED. And I thought that was a great suggestion. And again, no matter what light is chosen here by the developer, it won't set a precedent, but it's something worth considering whether or not we would like to set a precedent on developments in the future. And I did attach some code section supporting basically what we have on street lighting, which basically is limited to spacing and brightness, and that it should provide a safe nighttime environment. We added the dark sky compliance, so these lights will all have to be dark sky compliant. There isn't any particular cost associated with it. The town will be responsible for maintaining the lights just like we would water, sewer, and streets. Although lights would be a very low expenditure in my experience with respect to maintenance. These lights are $3,000 or $4,000 a piece. They're only installing a handful based upon town code requirements. And you have 4 options before you, or you and the developer. And the first one there, you can see in your packet, is the Sternberg light. That was one of the options presented to the Blair Street Association, which of course that project is still pending. And then a couple of other options. Of course, these are all much more attractive than, in my opinion, than a light pole with an LED arm on it. These options are similar. A couple of the options presented by the developer are very similar. And then the final one is an arm type light, which I didn't think that one was quite as historic. Of course, I'm interjecting my own opinion here unabashedly. But I think that the developer's first 2 lights are a good choice, along with the Sternberg light chosen by Blair Street. So again, to wrap up my memo here, staff is requesting your input on this. Do you have a preference? Do you like the idea of going with a warmer Kelvin? Should we discuss setting a standard for future developments? It's a bit of a discussion. And if there are any other questions, if there's any other way I can guide this, shoot, let me know.
Do we want to hear from the developer who has his hand up?
Yes, Logan does have his hand up if you all would like to hear from him and promote him.
Good evening, all. Thank you for your time and consideration here this evening. I just wanted to raise my hand and just basically be available for any questions that you guys have, in addition to speaking a little bit further as far as what John Seitz had just discussed. Our intention for the project from the beginning has always been to have a good high standard for the aesthetic and entrance of town. And so that's why, as John mentioned, we're presenting some options that we feel are a little bit of a higher touch. And we're pretty amenable to most of the stuff that John has talked about as far as the Kelvin count. We agree aesthetically, warmer light is much better. Obviously, being dark sky is a primary consideration. And, we don't necessarily need to be the ones who set a standard, but certainly open to following a standard or the being cohesive with that Blair Street project. And so whether that's us putting something in that's in alignment with Blair, or vice versa, us putting something in and then you guys follow suit with installing those on Blair, just to create some more cohesiveness throughout town, is certainly, I think, a good idea. So with that, I'll just leave it to you guys if you got any other questions.
Okay, I'll go. I just wanted to say I appreciate at least having this conversation, because I think it is good to think about what this could look like in the future. We're not just here for today, we're here for like thinking about how the town flows and looks down the road. So I appreciate developer bringing this up. I think for me, my priorities would be lower Kelvin, really dark sky compliant. And so the shades that face down more, or whatever relates to what we're working on with our dark sky ordinance. I know it's not final. And so as long as we're kind of checking back in with that, that to me is sort of the highest value. And then I guess, John, to you, my question would be, if we did come up with a standard, how would that be implemented in the future? Would it just be done on kind of a, if the town is improving a section, then that would be the streetlight we would be using? Or would it apply if someone's building on a block, or would it apply if someone's doing a subdivision or someone's doing a PUD? So I'm just kind of curious, like, I like the idea of setting a standard because I think it does create some cohesion for town down the road. And also I wonder how it gets implemented and what kind of burden it puts on future developers, either like little D developer or bigger areas developer.
Well, the implementation, I think, and Gloria can correct me if I'm wrong, but if the trustees requested it, then we could integrate it into code and the development standards as a requirement. Right now, you see that it says that there's required spacing, and there are required lumens, and we can also require a specified light, just like we require a special hydrant. A developer can't just put in any old fire hydrant. They have to put in a fire hydrant to our specifications, and we could implement that through code and development standards at the request of the trustees. And
but
as far as,
well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as far as the burden that it would place on a developer, I would say it would be similar to any other burden that we require with respect to our standards.
Yeah.
Like putting in a pipe or a hydrant or whatever.
Yep. I think for me, as I think about it, I want to be cognizant of all these little decisions we make layer on things, and those things can be positive, and sometimes those things can have unintended consequences. And so if we start getting to a point where we require everyone to put in a $3,000 light, whereas before some folks just put in the standard SMPA, I don't know, it might be worth having that discussion. Do we want to go down the route where we have all standardized, or do we want to create some options where we're still a little bit fluid in the price points that we shape for people as they develop? So that's more of an existential question out there that I don't have a conclusion to yet, but I love the idea of standards. I'm also cognizant of putting too many additional burdens and costs on applicants, especially one at a time as we go along.
Right. And the underground infrastructure part of it is probably one of the larger considerations, even above the light installation or the choice of the light, because they'll essentially be pulling power from a place and then running it in conduit underground to a light. So and that's another reason why I wanted to bring this up. It's not only are the lights themselves a subjective selection, but it has further implications. So it's a discussion that I wanted to have rather than yes, we should do this or no, we shouldn't. It's something that we should think about as development increases. And we may not see another development where they're going to install 3 blocks, or a block. So it may not be something that's going to happen right away in any event.
My only question, John, is as if we go with the lower Kelvin light, are we going to start replacing all the other street lights in town with those same bulbs? Can we?
That's a good question. That's a good question that I don't have the answer to. But I think it's worth asking San Miguel to see if we could we'll make a note of that to reach out to them.
Taking into consideration what we've worked for the past 4 years with uniformity, light pollution, reducing light pollution in certain areas around town. My personal preference is number 4 with the lamp on top that directs the light down onto the street. Since I think that's what the question was. I don't think
These
there's any.
lights are all dark sky compliant. And the photos may be misleading, but
They're misleading.
yes, because the top of those lights is a solid material, is my understanding. And the lens is below the cap on those lights. So these should all be dark sky compliant.
Okay.
And if I'm mistaken, then I would not recommend them.
Well, whatever's directing that light down.
Yeah.
That's my only thought. Thank you for asking us.
Gloria, is there anything related to the work on the dark sky ordinance or ethics that is relevant here? Like, I know we're working on a dark sky ordinance, yes? Yeah. So is there anything related to that work that you think applies here, or what's presented before us from John's recommendation and perspective? There wouldn't be any concerns with these. It's not like we're implementing an ordinance in a year that these would be out of compliance with.
To be honest, I haven't reviewed that draft yet, but if they have been deemed dark sky compliant, then they should be okay, but I haven't reviewed that portion of the draft yet. Logan has his hand up. Like to speak.
Thank you again, guys. Yeah, just to address Trustee Harper's concern about the downcasting light. Yeah, that's our intention, is to have the downcast light. I just think from aesthetic standpoint, we're looking more like kind of the option 1 or the one that's more similar to Blair Street. And again, I think just keeping in mind that this is the entrance to town, and we certainly take on that responsibility of providing a nice aesthetic to set a tone, not necessarily a standard. I know you guys are debating what a standard may look like in the future, but just from from our standpoint, we just want to have something that presents town really well, and that's why we would lean more towards like option 1, something like that.
And Logan, to clarify, when you say option 1, you mean the Sternberg lighting option that was discussed with Blair Street?
Yeah, that one, because it seems to be the most cohesive. I'm not sure where you guys are at as far as the Blair Street project, if those lights have been acquired yet or if they're still in process, but that one or option 3 are pretty similar, if I recall correctly. And so those are somewhat of our top 2 picks.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan or Tyler, any thoughts?
We also have I guess the light poles at the courthouse are a lot like the Sternberg, if I remember correctly, but that's the only other place in town that we have sort of different light poles. But no, I'm yeah, I think it would be cool to have these, but again, do we want to make it a standard? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have too much of a preference either, and I'm not super into creating a standard. I think, go ahead and leave Silverton weird and, I think some basic lighting requirements that allow the dark sky ordinance. I'm fine with kind of whatever.
I like the Sternberg option a lot because I think it does reflect back to different other instances in town. And again, if it was kind of similar to an option that was talked about for Blair Street, I think that could be useful if we have certain areas where there's talk of doing something similar, they can be aligned. So, but again, this is very subjective. I think, John, you raise a good point. I think I tend to agree with Jordan kind of at this point. I think when you're talking about like couple block development, this makes a ton of sense to me. But I think when we're just talking about in general, maybe the new bumper sticker is keep Silverton weird. I don't know. Put that in the code rewrite, Sheila, keep Silverton weird. So yeah, I like option one. I like how it directs it down, but it still kind of looks a little old timey mining. But yeah.
With respect to guidance to the developer, I think that going for a lower Kelvin number, a warmer color, I think is something that's a little bit more objective, that we all typically prefer a warmer light to a bright white blinding light. So perhaps that could be a recommendation, and a dark sky compliant, I think that we can all easily recommend. And beyond that, it's really the developer's choice. And if there aren't any further hard recommendations, I suppose it will be up to them anyway, but perhaps those are suggestions that we could make to them.
Both of those sound good to me.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for that discussion.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
He's on his way, I think. He's right there. There you go.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item 5, approval of consent agenda items, with the amendment to add the letter of support. Are there any comments or questions about the consent agenda?
I just wanted to say crushing it, town staff, on the Chaffa grant and the Ramble contract. That's a lot of great, significant work.
Tyler, Jordan? Wonderful. Would
Make
someone
a
like to
motion
make?
to approve the consent agenda?
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kränker?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Birma?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Furman?
Yes. Thank you very much. Now move on to item 6, staff reports.
All right, so I did receive the scholarship to attend CML, so I'm really glad I gave up my training budget to the housing coordinator on that one. They'll be paying for lodging, conference registration, and $100 travel stipend and some meals. But I will also be inviting 2 trustees to accompany me to that conference once the new board is seated. So just planting the seed now, so you guys can have some fun. And then I did throw in our grants. We had a finance committee meeting and chatted about our grants quite a bit. And we are currently administering 13 grants. And so the total amount that we've been awarded is about $5 million. This does equate to about $10 million worth of projects right now that we're facilitating.
That should be like a bottle of champagne being opened. I mean, that's really significant. That's huge.
We've got a lot of reasons to open a bottle of champagne.
Well, very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one question for John, just maybe if you could state for the record, John, as I've been sharing with folks about at different boards I'm on and just talking to people about the wastewater treatment and the work that we're doing with the catchment system, so the pipes in the ground. I was hearing some excitement and also concerned comments like, oh, the town is digging up all the streets, all the pipes, and now all of our, 100-year homes that have connections to these things, it's all going to be a whole big mess. And I think that's not the approach we're taking. So maybe if you could give us the high level, non-complete engineering perspective on what's actually happening for our pipes in the ground catchment system.
Sure, most of the pipes that need work will be lined in place. So that will be very non-invasive. Not completely non-invasive. Of course, the service to those homes will be suspended for an hour or two, I hope, based on what we've been speaking with our contractors. Basically, they'll pull the liner in, they cure it with a UV light, and then they go right back in and cut the services out with a cutting tool. And they can be in and out of a section of main in a couple of hours. So there will be some suspension of service. And then there will be some pipes that need to have sections completely replaced, but it's a much smaller percentage of the project.
Yeah.
And there will be a handful of manholes that need to be replaced, in which case we'll be employing bypass pumping. And I would hope that we don't have great interruptions of service there. And other manholes will be lined. But again, when work's being done on the manholes, there should be bypass pumping in place. It's not that we're digging up every pipe in town and replacing it and having massive disruptions. That's not the idea here.
Thank you.
And then I did include the library's staff report as well. That's
Oh,
an
that was cool.
addition, and I would like to start doing that every month. So
Nice.
Misty's a great member of our staff, and we want to include her in everything.
I just think too, these were really robust staff reports. I mean, thinking about all the things happening. Finally got the generator, John. Again, the grants that are happening, the capacity grant for Anne's salary is huge. All the things Sarah's working on, just again, ton of things happening that don't always get seen by everybody. So thank you.
Awesome. The next item on our agenda is committee board reports. 7A is the Historic Review Committee.
Want me to go for it?
Yeah, well, I mean, was there anything that we didn't already cover in our public hearings? I guess that's the update is the applications, yeah, that we discussed earlier tonight came in front of the Historic Review Committee. Finance Committee.
Gloria already mentioned, we talked about the grants. And it doesn't include several other technical assistance grants as well. So again, a lot of stuff happening in regards to this spending that's happening at the federal and state level. Way to go, staff, for going to get it. We also talked a bit about the USDA loan. So referring to the project John was just talking about for repairing some of our sewer lines. We have a USDA joint grant and loan. And we just need to look into some different financing. And so, Laura, I don't know if you want to provide more of an update on that, or if we'll talk about it when it comes before the board.
Yeah, so you will be expecting, we have to do interim financing with our USDA portion of our loan portion that we have. So we are currently working with several banks to kind of figure that out. And one that is preferred by USDA is CO Bank. And so we're working with them right now, and we'll have to come before you all with the financing to get approval. And then once we go through that, it basically takes the liability off of USDA and puts it on a financial institution. And that's why they that's why they do it that way. But if you work with a bank that is directly associated with USDA, then they can help with the compliance part to make sure that you are in compliance every month and that you're not going to submit for the grant and you don't get reimbursed, basically. So yeah, we've been learning a lot through this process, but feeling much more savvy in it and a lot more support than when we tried to finance an easy park. So it's feeling pretty smooth with it at this point. But there is a long list of letter of conditions from USDA that we have to comply with as well. So John and I are knocking those out.
Thank you. Yeah, and then there was just an update on some of the projects that staff has been working on. So that was just an update.
Awesome.
We had a planning commission meeting Thursday. Lucy did a terrific job as always. Full star for you. Some of this we covered Thursday night in Thursday night's meeting.
Right.
We had a Thursday night meeting. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all blending together, isn't it? There was an improvement permit application that was approved unanimously for Adam and Spencer Rex, the Kendall Mountain House that was approved. The two additional points were ordinance 2024-2, which is an ordinance imposing a temporary suspension for construction permits. Again, we discussed this Thursday night. That was a decision 3-3. And then a proposed ordinance 2024-03. That was a split decision, again, 3-3. And then the final agenda item was public hearing on the annexation of the Anvil Mountain subdivision, and that was approved by the board unanimously. I don't think I need to go into detail on any of that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next thing on our agenda is trustee reports. The only thing I have to say is anyone who didn't know somehow there's an election that's currently ongoing, voting is open. Please go vote if you're a Silverton resident, or if you're a Silverton resident that hasn't registered, go register and then go vote. It's super easy. Go to the county building, find out what the requirements are. I think it's pretty simple in terms of like ID and a lease or something like that, or a utility bill, but participate. It's important. And thank you for everyone that's running.
Gloria, is there a way for you to state, in case people tune into this later, about if there are Anvil residents that want to vote? I know we've distributed this through various channels, but just specify what could happen.
Do you want to take that one?
Yes, so Anvil residents will be eligible to vote if the annexation is approved. In the case that the annexation is approved, they will be eligible to vote so long as they're registered to vote in the county as soon as the annexation is recorded. And so we will touch on that during the annexation hearings as well. And if people have any questions, they can contact the clerk or the planning department.
Thank you.
Any other trustee reports? Okay, great. Then that was a great segue because the next item on our agenda is continued business 9A, public hearing, annexation hearing, ordinance 2024-05, an emergency ordinance of the town of Silverton annexing to the town of emergency ordinance of the town of Silverton annexing to the town of Silverton certain real property known as Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1.
Awesome. Well, I will not repeat that, but this is a public hearing. This public hearing is an annexation hearing to consider ordinance 2024-05. A public hearing legal notice has been posted in the newspaper for 6 weeks and the town has received no public comment. Anvil Mountain Subdivision is a project spearheaded by the county to increase the affordable, attainable, and market rate housing stock for residents of Silverton. The town and the county have closely collaborated on this project with the understanding that this area would one day be annexed into the town. The result of this collaboration has been the extension of town roads and utilities into Anvil and funding and resources towards infrastructure and housing development. Today, around 50 valuable community members of all ages, occupations, and interests reside in Anvil. And the town continues to put time and resources into the development of infrastructure and affordable housing. Before you today is the first of 2 annexation ordinances to initiate the annexation of Anvil. The reason the annexation of Anvil requires 2 petitions, and these hearings are on 2 separate days, is to comply with CRS 31-12-104-1A, which requires that at least 1/6 of the perimeter of the area proposed to be annexed is contiguous with the annexing municipality. So due to the size of Anvil and the area contiguous with town, the area needed to be annexed in a series. Tonight, trustees are considering the annexation of the area referred to as Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1. The legal description and map are included in tonight's packet. They've been posted in the newspaper for 6 weeks and are posted on the town's website under pending applications. But for anyone who's unfamiliar, Anvil Mountain Subdivision is located on the southwest side of town, up West 5th Street, and it is east of County Road 6 or the Shrine Road. Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1 includes the Zanoni property purchased by the town in 2022, 28 lots designated to affordable and attainable housing, and 10 of which are improved. On January 29th, 2024, the town received a petition for the annexation of Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1. The petitioning party is San Juan County, Colorado. The petition was signed by 86% of the landowners, owning 91% of the area, excluding public streets, alleys, and any land owned by the annexing municipality, making it eligible for annexation by ordinance rather than an election. Over 1/6 of the perimeter of the area proposed to be annexed is contiguous with the annexing municipality. This is labeled on the annexation map as a Silverton town site boundary, making it eligible for annexation. At the regular meeting on February 12th, 2024, the Board of Trustees deemed the Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1 petition substantially compliant with Colorado revised statutes and the Silverton Municipal Code and set a date for the annexation hearing for March 25th, 2024 at 7 p.m. right now. By the adoption of Resolution 2024-03 per CRS 31-12-108, and the notice has been posted for 6 weeks. Public agencies and referral agencies have been contacted and residents have been notified. On March 19th, 2024, the San Juan Regional Planning Commission reviewed the proposed annexation of Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1 for its conformity with the master plan and the 3-mile plan. After the review of the annexation request, the following motion was made. Motion to recommend to the Board of Trustees approval of the annexation of the Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1 and the Anvil Mountain Subdivision 2. The motion was approved unanimously. The purpose of tonight's annexation hearing is to determine if the proposed annexation of the Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1 meets the applicable state and local requirements. The memo included in your packet tonight outlines the proposed annexation and how it complies with the state and local requirements, including CRS 31-12-104, CRS 31-12-105, Silverton Municipal Code Chapter 15, the 3-mile plan, in conformance with the master plan. Staff has found that the proposed annexation meets all state and local requirements and recommends to the Board of Trustees to approve annexation ordinance 2024-105. I'll note the zoning of Anvil will occur after the annexation takes place, but no longer than 90 days after, which complies with requirements. And this will not interfere with any of San Juan Development Association's affordable housing build schedule for the summer. On April 2nd, the town will hold an election for the mayoral seat and 4 trustee seats. With such a large election coming up, staff has presented an emergency ordinance identifying citizens' right to vote as sacred and protected by the U.S. and Colorado constitutions. The emergency ordinance would be made effective immediately upon passage. If trustees find the proposed annexation meets all applicable requirements, and should they declare that it is necessary in the best interest of the health, welfare, safety, and residents of the town of Silverton to allow town residents living in the Anvil Mountain subdivision to exercise their right to vote in the upcoming election. If ordinance 2024-05 is approved, trustees will then review resolution 2024-08, a resolution of the town of Silverton making findings of facts and conclusions concerning the Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1 annexation. Should that pass, the town staff will deliver the required materials to the county recorder tomorrow, Tuesday, March 26th. The annexation of Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1 shall be made official upon the recording of the annexation map and ordinance. If in this case, residents living in that area would immediately be able to vote. If ordinance 2024-05 is denied, no similar request may be heard for a period of 1 year from the date of denial. As I stated earlier, the purpose of the memo was to compare the proposed annexation to the state and local requirements. However, if you would like me to go through each section of code and explain how the proposed annexation meets the requirements verbally, or answer any questions, I'd be happy to do so. Yeah, sorry, that was a long one. There's just a lot of requirements in there.
Thank you. And technically, to follow the public process, the county is the applicant.
County is out.
So do we have anyone from the county who would like to supplement the in-depth information just provided by Lucy?
Doesn't appear so.
Okay, great. So then we'll open up public comment period. We no longer have anyone in person. Would anyone on Zoom like to public comment? Please click the raise hand button. We do have public comment.
Oh, Melody. Count on you.
Cheering us on.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Hey, this is the subdivision of Bertramville. We're welcoming the new subdivision to town. Thanks.
Right, thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the public comment period and move on to trustee discussion and deliberation. Yeah, this is awesome. Really incredible work. I did not expect this project to come to completion or fruition during this term. And it's really amazing that it has. And just listening to all of the stuff that went into this, it obviously took a ridiculous amount of work. So thank you very much.
It has been an exercise in persistence and methodical attention to detail. So congratulations. I know most of the people on the screen have been involved. Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to read? Sure.
She has a whole bunch, but I was like,
No.
ask them if you want to.
I really was planning on going through every requirement, so that was the short version.
Honor that you know that it meets requirements. And I think it's just.
It's all in the packet if someone would like to see.
Yeah.
Huge. People don't appreciate all the variety of ways that you had to tackle this, so.
Tyler or Jordan, anything to add or ask or add? No.
Oh, really excited. Thank you for all the hard work, guys.
Yeah, nothing for me.
Awesome. Would someone like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-05, emergency ordinance of the town of Silverton and its annexing to the town of Silverton, Colorado, certain real property known as Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kränker,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Bierma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is continued business 9B, resolution 2024-08, a resolution of the town of Silverton making findings of fact and conclusions concerning the Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1 annexation.
So this next step is just a findings of facts to basically confirm whether or not all requirements have been met, whether or not an election is required, and whether any additional terms or conditions shall be imposed. And staff recommends to approve the resolution as is, as there have been no conditions identified. An election is not necessary, and we have gone through the process of reviewing the requirements.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-08, a resolution of the town of Silverton making findings of fact and conclusions concerning the Anvil Mountain Subdivision 1 annexation.
Second. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kränker,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Birma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, all these new votes, we might need 2 more seats on the board now.
We need a bottle of champagne now.
Well, on Wednesday, when everybody shows up for the special meeting that we're gonna have for the second annexation hearings. I just wanted to remind everyone, we do have another meeting on Wednesday and then it will be complete.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Liz.
All right. Next item on our agenda is item 9C, alternate liquor license hearing officer RFQ response.
All right, so we received a resume as an application for the alternative liquor license hearing officer that we put an RFQ out in February. John Scott Jackson, who currently already serves as our alternative municipal judge, is willing to serve as the alternative liquor license hearing officer as well.
Any questions or comments? Someone like to make a motion? Would someone like to make a motion to appoint John Scott Lyon Jackson as the alternative liquor license authority hearing officer? So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Trying to share.
Trustee Kränker,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Birma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Thank you. And now to the last substantive item of our agenda, continued business 9D, resolution 2024-10, a resolution establishing trustee discussion limits for complex agenda items during regular meetings.
All right, so this proposal was presented at the March 11th regular meeting and staff was given direction to draft a resolution to be presented at the Board of Trustees for consideration. The original proposal included 1 minute for closing statements. After trustee discussion, it was requested that this be changed to 2 minutes.
And again, this is just a tool in the toolbox. I don't expect it to be used with frequency, but it would have been helpful a few times for me to facilitate some of our more complicated topics.
Gloria, do you have any thought or recommendation on like revisiting this for a year or 6 months or after using it so many times? Or I mean, I don't know, just like, do we need anything formal to check in on it? Or would the board need anything formal to check in on it?
I guess that would be a question for Clayton if we need anything formal. I don't have any reservations about this because it is something that the mayor and the administrator can decide if that topic applies or not. And I guess, you know, if the entire board decided that that didn't apply, they would probably override us. So, but yeah, Clayton?
Yeah, it's just a resolution. The board at any time can revisit it and make whatever rules they want, or if they disagree with a determination that the mayor or the staff believes it's a complex issue that should be time limited, you just not do it. I mean, it's not an ordinance. It's not, you know, it's not a regulation. That it's something that we're putting in place for efficiency's sake, and it's up to the board to follow it or alter it or amend it or change it in the future.
That's great, thanks.
And that was going to be my only comment. We're putting this in right before a new board is seated, and maybe they're not going to want this as much. But if it's that easy to overrule or undo, then yeah, any concerns I have are alleviated
I sense a lot of indifference, but would someone like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2024-10? A resolution establishing trustee discussion limits for complex agenda items during regular meetings? Or do we not? Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kränker?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
No.
Trustee Birma?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Thank you. We'll now move to our closing public comment. We've got a couple people on Zoom. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click the raise hand button. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. The time is 8:51 p.m. and I adjourn last regular full meeting of the Silverton Board of Trustees of this iteration.
Oh, that's it. I forgot about that.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good evening.